He played one of the most iconic villains in cinema history, a role that made him unforgettable to millions of fans. And yet, for decades, Terence Stamp wouldn't talk about Superman. He avoided interviews, dodged questions, and left audiences wondering why he seemed to bury the very role that made him a global icon. What happened behind the scenes was more than just Hollywood drama. It was betrayal, disappointment, and a clash with one of the most powerful figures in movie history. And once you hear what really went down, you'll understand why Stamp stayed silent for so long. Terence Stamp's portrayal of General Zod in Superman and Superman 2 defined the word menacing. With his cold stare and commanding voice, he gave comic book villainy a new face, elegant, intelligent, and terrifying. Kneel Before Zod became more than a movie line. It became a pop culture staple. But what fans didn't know was that while the world celebrated the films, Stamp was privately distancing himself from the franchise that made him a household name. The trouble began not during Superman 2, but long before it even hit theaters. Originally, the two Superman films were being shot simultaneously by acclaimed director Richard Donner. Stamp had signed on based on Donner's vision, one that promised depth, quality, and a level of sophistication rare for superhero films at the time. Donner and Stamp worked closely, crafting a performance that balanced theatrical villainy with quiet menace. And then, suddenly, Donner was gone. Without warning, the producers fired Donner midway through production and replaced him with Richard Lester, a director known more for slapstick and lighthearted tone than high drama. Stamp, like many others in the cast, was blindsided. He later admitted he felt betrayed, not only by the producers, but by the industry itself. The new direction under Lester clashed with everything Stamp had signed up for. The script was altered, scenes were res-hot, and Zod's layered villainy was reduced to something far more cartoonish. Stamp was devastated. For him, Superman 2 had gone from being a thoughtful continuation of Donner's work to a chaotic blend of conflicting visions. While audiences still adored his performance, Stamp felt it had been compromised. And he was also deeply uncomfortable with the politics behind the scenes, the studio power plays, the rewriting, and the way Donner was ousted. In interviews years later, Stamp revealed that he had tremendous respect for Donner and viewed him as a mentor. Watching him get replaced so abruptly and then seeing the final film shift in tone left a lasting scar. So, he shut the door. For years, Stamp refused to talk publicly about the Superman films. He declined fan conventions, dodged interviews that brought it up, and stayed tight-lipped whenever the topic arose. It wasn't about bitterness, it was about disappointment. For an actor who took pride in every role, Superman became a symbol of what Hollywood could take away: creative integrity. It wasn't until decades later, after Richard Donner's cut of Superman 2 was finally released, that Stamp softened. In the so-called Donner cut, fans finally saw the version closer to what Stamp originally filmed, darker, more focused, and more faithful to the actor's performance. Only then did Terence Stamp begin to open up. He praised Donner, acknowledged the fans, and embraced the legacy he had helped build. But for so many years, that legacy was buried under silence. Today, General Zod remains one of the most unforgettable villains in superhero film history, and Terence Stamp's chilling performance still resonates with fans old and new. But behind that iconic role lies a story of artistic betrayal, industry politics, and a man who refused to celebrate something that had once broken his trust. Now that the truth is out, we don't just remember Zod. We understand Stamp. And maybe, just maybe, we kneel before him for a different reason.